Now, I actually haven't seen the original RoboCop film, so I went into the RoboCop reboot rather blind in the sense that I had no idea what it was about, and I have to say that it has interesting moments, but as a film overall, just isn't that well executed. It tells the story of Alex Murphy, who is ultimately the victim of a car explosion, and how he is being put into a robot suit. But that's on the surface of it. The film actually has a little more depth than just that, especially with the evil corporations and how they deal with things, and how this robot, they're pretty much using Alex Murphy as a robot in a marketable way, and the perspective of that is something I found interesting. Now, the opening of the film has an action sequence that was alright. I mean, a lot of the film is just okay. That's the simplest way to put it. There's not much to dazzle you, there's not much of anything new that you really witness. There's not much done with the action, unfortunately, although there are certain moments where the action is enjoyable. But the thing is, the character is where I think the film suffers, because in the first third of the film, it's established that Alex Murphy, he is a family man, sure, but when he is at the police station, he seems a little bit hot-headed. He doesn't entirely seem like a person you'd root for, so that's the first issue. And then when they put this man into a machine, and you kind of have the conflict of emotion versus machine, which is something that's been, of course, explored in earlier films, and I thought they did a decent job with it. The problem is, emotionally, you're not that connected to Alex Murphy in the first place, and therefore, you don't exactly feel much while all those scenes are going on, while he is there in the robot suit with his family. You don't feel that kind of connection that you'd hope to, simply because of the fact that you have not been so emotionally connected with Alex Murphy in the first place. Despite this, though, I thought the film does raise a good question.
Why is America so robophobic?
And it addressed this political aspect of it, this more commercial aspect of it as well, and I thought it did a pretty good job at that, but unfortunately, they could have delved into it a little bit more. And you know, when you see the evil corporation, how they do certain things with regards to this robot, and the genuine question as to whether a machine like this would be a reasonable idea to promote national security or something like that, or whether people would want to invest and pretty much put their lives in the hands of robots. It's an interesting question, especially when we're going into the future. But I mean, it was addressed well, but that was it. It was a question that was put up a lot. I don't think from a solution perspective there was so much ever provided. Nonetheless, though, I was very intrigued, and I was thinking about this question a lot throughout the course of the film. And this is during the middle portion of the film, which is actually the best portion of the film in my personal opinion, because when you get to the end of the film, it resorts to the unnecessary larger action sequences, and there are some action sequences where it's very hard to tell what's going on. Certain characters make extremely rash decisions, and I call them rash because they're completely out of line, out of character decisions that occur, and I think that it really makes the film be more inconsistent than it already was. It didn't start out that well. It picked up when it raised these questions. But again, the overall execution of the film is not that great. For example, they have a lot of news interviews with Samuel L. Jackson, and I think that there was definitely a better way in which they could have used that character, not by randomly cutting to a new show and back. And I think there were a lot of moments here and there where I felt the film had the potential to use whatever it had in a better way, in a more interesting and even more enjoyable way. It's unfortunate, though, that this is a quote-unquote action movie, but the problem is that the action itself is never that awe-inspiring or mesmerizing or enjoyable at any time. And what's worse is you're not that connected with the character from the beginning, so there really isn't all that much to root for. But despite that, I think that the film does address a few important issues. At the end of the day, it's a film that I would not recommend to everyone. If you're a fan of the old RoboCop film, I'm sure you probably end up enjoying this more. But I'm going to give the film a single no.